Okay, forget about same-day delivery. Today we're going to dive into the body's most insane delivery service. I'm talking every second of every day delivery. This thing never, ever clocks out, and it's got trillions of customers to keep happy. So let's get into it. This is your owner's guide to the respiratory system.
Seriously, just think about this for a second. What if breathing wasn't automatic? What if you had to consciously think, okay, time to breathe in, now, breathe out. All day, every day. Can you even imagine? It would be completely exhausting, right? Thankfully, this whole incredible system just runs. It's on this super sophisticated autopilot 24/7, and it never ever takes a vacation.
And thank goodness for that autopilot, because the stakes here are, well, they're absolute. Every single one of your trillions of cells is like a tiny little power plant, and these power plants are constantly screaming for one thing, a fresh supply of oxygen so they can make energy. But, just like any factory, they also produce exhaust. In this case, it's carbon dioxide, which is basically toxic waste that has to be taken out, like, right now. So that's the fundamental job, right? Good stuff in, bad stuff out.
Okay, so when we talk about respiration, it's actually a bit more than just, breathing in and out. Think of it as this huge, complex logistical operation. And to really get our heads around it, we're going to do something cool. We're going to follow a single breath of air on its amazing journey, all the way from the outside world deep into your body's core. Right, so the whole shebang happens in 3 main steps. First, you've got pulmonary ventilation. That's just a fancy word for breathing. Then, external respiration, which happens in the lungs. And finally, internal respiration, which is out in the body tissues. For our journey today, we're going to focus on those first 2 big ones, getting the air into the factory and then loading up the delivery trucks, which in this case is your bloodstream.
Now, it's super important to remember that this system doesn't work alone. Not at all. It's in this critical partnership with the cardiovascular system, your heart and all your blood vessels. The way to think about it is this. The respiratory system is the main warehouse, the central hub. But the cardiovascular system, that's the entire fleet of delivery trucks. And together, they are the key to maintaining homeostasis, that perfect internal balance that keeps you alive.
And listen, the textbook puts it perfectly. The importance of this partnership is no joke. It says that failure of either system, well, it disrupts homeostasis by causing a super rapid death of cells from oxygen starvation and a buildup of all those nasty waste products. So yeah, if the warehouse closes or the trucks break down, the whole operation just stops. It's literally a life or death mission playing out with every single breath you take. All right, let's start our journey. So the air comes in. And what's the very first checkpoint? It's the upper respiratory system. And you should really think of this part as the super advanced air conditioning and purification plant. See, it doesn't just let any old air waltz right in. No way. That air has to be perfectly prepped for the very delicate environment down in the lungs.
So you can see the path the air takes right here, in through the nose and down the pharynx. But look, this is way more than just a simple pipe. As that air is traveling through, 3 crucial things are happening all at once. It's being warmed up to body temperature, it's being humidified so it doesn't dry out the sensitive lung tissue, and it's being filtered by this sticky mucus that traps all the gunk, like dust and germs.
And the secret sauce to how all this happens so efficiently? It's these structures called the nasal conchae. These are basically bony shelves that create a ton of turbulence. They make the air tumble and swirl around, kind of like it's on a roller coaster ride. And this is just a genius biological trick to maximize surface area. All that tumbling means the air spends way more time in contact with the warm, moist lining of your nose. It ensures every last particle of air is perfectly conditioned before it moves on to the next stage.
Okay, so our air is perfectly conditioned. Now what? It continues its journey downward, heading into the lower respiratory system. It goes past the larynx, that's your voice box, and then it enters this huge branching highway system that kicks off with the trachea, which you probably know as the windpipe.
And this whole lower system is really split into 2 different zones. First up, you have the conducting zone. You can think of this as all the pipes and plumbing, the trachea, the bronchi. Their job is just to filter the air and get it where it needs to go. But then you have the respiratory zone. And that, my friends, is the destination. That's the business end of the whole operation. It's where the real action happens.
And that highway system I mentioned, it's called the bronchial tree. And when you look at it, you can totally see why. It just branches and branches and then branches again, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It creates this absolutely incredible distribution network, and it's all designed to deliver that perfectly prepared air to millions of different destinations at the exact same time. So, that brings us to the grand finale of our journey. After traveling all the way down that branching highway, our little breath of air has finally arrived at its destination. This is the moment the entire system has been built for.
Welcome to the alveoli. What you're looking at are hundreds of millions of these tiny, microscopic, balloon-like air sacs. They're all clustered together like little bunches of grapes, and each cluster is totally wrapped up in this dense web of blood capillaries. Get this, if you can unfold all of them and lay them flat, they'd cover half a tennis court. This right here is the loading dock. This is where external respiration goes down.
So this is where the magic really happens. It's called diffusion. That oxygen we've been following all this time, it just moves right across the super thin walls of the alveoli and hops into the blood. And at the very same time, the carbon dioxide, that waste product from the cells, it hops out of the blood and into the alveoli, ready to be exhaled. It's the perfect exchange. The precious cargo is dropped off, the trash is picked up. Mission accomplished.
So that carbon dioxide then makes the return trip right back up the highway it came down, and we breathe it out. Simple as that. But what's really amazing is that this whole massive life-sustaining delivery service, it also moonlights. It's got a few other pretty critical side jobs it does for the body.
Yeah, this system is a total multitasking genius. By managing your CO2 levels, it helps keep your blood pH perfectly balanced. It's got the receptors for your sense of smell tucked away up in your nose. The air passing over your vocal cords, that's what lets you talk, sing, whatever. And hey, every single time you breathe out, you're also getting rid of some extra heat and water. See? It is so much more than just a pair of lungs.
So now that we've seen just how incredibly intricate and delicate and just absolutely essential this system is, all the way from that fancy air conditioner in your nose to the millions of tiny loading docks deep in your lungs, it kind of raises a pretty important question, doesn't it? What do you think happens when you deliberately and repeatedly introduce smoke and tar into this pristine, high-performance machine? Definitely something to think about.